Imagine you are lost and lonely, feeling beaten down by the world. One day, a charismatic man approaches you at a bar, offering a happier, more meaningful life. Desperate for change, you listen and are captivated by his passion. You follow him, seeking the belonging and purpose you've craved. But his teachings become increasingly unsettling, and you question nothing. You continue to follow blindly. Suddenly, your compound is raided, and people are dying around you. It dawns on you. Is this a cult? It's too late to escape. As you face the end, you wonder, was it really worth it?
Welcome to Tales from the Graves, where shadows lurk and whispers echo.
Join us as we delve into the unknown, exploring tales of mystery, horror, and the supernatural.
Be prepared to journey into the darkness, where the line between reality and nightmare blurs.
I'm Jen.
And I'm Jess.
Together, we're the Grave Sisters, and we'll be your guides as we unearth the strange and unusual.
So find your flashlight, grab your shovel, and let's dig in.
The following podcast is rated for mature audiences.
It may contain graphic scenes of violence and explicit language that some may find disturbing.
Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back, our beloved grave diggers, to episode 12 of Tales from the Graves. We are officially preteens. We are so happy to have you and hope that you are having an absolutely wonderful day. Today, we will be discussing something that has always been an enigma to me, and that is cults.
I like me a good cult story.
Oh.
I do not want to be a part of a cult. I think that there are some cults that I would be like, hey, maybe. But on average, it's very,
no.
Yeah, no, I want to know the stuff that these people believe in, and then I just want to leave it at that.
Yeah, because I'm not much of a follower like that. So today we'll be discussing one of the most notorious cults. We'll be discussing David Koresh and the influence that he had on his followers, which were called the Branch Davidians. But first, exactly what is a cult? Could you come up with some kind of definition of a cult?
Well, organized religion, but you know, more on a serious note. We're serious note. Cults to me are very just gung ho. They're extreme. Where most cults you see, it's trying to get people who are low self-esteem, they don't value themselves as much, or they feel like they need to do something bigger and better than what they are. And they find these people who are charismatic, and those people just talk them out of all their money and get them to believe whatever bullshit they can come up with. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember watching a series on, I think it was Netflix, about a cult with, like, the Mother God. And
No, don't. I'm going to do an episode on that bitch later.
God. It's still around. It's much smaller, but, like, it was a whole, oh my gosh, yeah. But she was very delusional, okay?
Yes.
And most of the time, cult leaders are very delusional. They believe in their own delusions, or they know what absolute garbage they're spewing, and they just relish in the admiration and praise and blind worship of these people who are just wanting to believe in something bigger and better than what they are. And it's just a lot of taking advantage of them. And I'm not saying that I would ever join a cult, but also I don't know if I would never join a cult. It'd have to be like a really good cult. Like, I don't know, a cult of Deadpool or a cult of, I don't know, something like, I don't know, Henry Cavill's butt cheeks.
I would worship that Man of Steel's man.
Yeah, I mean, either that or, worshiping Mothman's juicy booty in West Virginia, because
You're an ass man, aren't you?
I am. And thankfully, my boyfriend has so much cake.
Okay, well, let us continue. All right, let's go from cake to cult.
Okay.
So the definition, a cult is a social group that is defined by its religious, spiritual, or philosophical beliefs, or by its common interest in a particular personality, object, or goal. Now, the term quote-unquote cult often carries a negative connotation and is used to describe groups that exhibit quite a few of the following characteristics. There is charismatic leadership, exclusive beliefs, isolation, control and manipulation, total commitment, us versus them mentality, and exploitation. So the first one, charismatic leaderships. Cults typically have a leader who is seen as exceptionally charismatic, authoritative, or even divine. Someone who's... This leader often holds significant control over the group's members and their beliefs. Cults often promote beliefs that are distinct and divergent from mainstream religions or social norms. They can even claim to have exclusive knowledge or a unique path to salvation or enlightenment. With isolation, members of cults are often encouraged or forced to isolate themselves from outside influences, including friends and family, just a broader society, pretty much. And this isolation helps maintain control over the group and minimizes outside criticism. Because heaven knows the only person that can judge them is their leader. Okay.
Yeah, but a lot of times that leader is trying to diddle the children.
Oh, just wait.
Oh, God, no.
So, the fourth one was control and manipulation.
Yeah.
So, cults often employ manipulative practices to control members' behavior, thoughts, and emotions. So, this can include indoctrination, grooming, coercion, and various forms of psychological manipulation. Man, some of those people in cults know how to manipulate. Oof.
Oh, so they're narcissists. Okay.
I mean, this leader that we're going to be discussing definitely was one.
Wait, is this the Flavor Aid guy?
No, that is Jonestown, but
Oh, yeah.
we'll be doing that one later too.
Yeah.
That's a good one. So number 5 was total commitment. Cults typically demand high levels of commitment from their members, often requiring significant personal, financial, or emotional investment. Members may be expected, or more than likely are expected, to sacrifice personal relationships, careers, and their possessions for the sake of the group. Which I'm a little selfish and I'm a little greedy about certain things. So let's just say Jessica doesn't like to share. Okay?
Yeah, I know. Like bingo yesterday.
Yeah, no, I don't like to share.
Even though it was my bingo win.
She's butthurt.
I am. You got a $50 gift card. I got a $10 Chili's gift card. That ain't gonna buy shit.
All right. It's us versus them mentality. Okay. Cults often create a strong sense of in-group identity. One of us, grubble grobble. So they are setting themselves apart from and often in opposition to the outside world. This mentality can foster a sense of persecution or victimization.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the last one was exploitation. In many cases, cult leaders exploit members for personal gain, whether it be financial, sexual, or otherwise. Now, this exploitation is often justified through the group's belief systems. But it is important to note that not all groups labeled as cults fit these characteristics perfectly, and the term can be controversial and subjective. Some scholars prefer terms like new religious movement, something along those lines, to avoid the negative connotations associated with the word cult.
I don't think anybody who is starting a cult is doing so necessarily with wanting to be called a cult, because the word cult has such a negative connotation, like you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's going to want to hand over all of their money and assets to someone who's like, want to join my cult? No, it's a want to join my new religious movement. It's new and it's freeing and it's everything you want to be. You know,
Which was like a manipulation tactic. But my question is, why exactly do people join cults? That is one thing that just racked my brain. Whenever I looked it up, it says that people join cults for a variety of complex and interconnected reasons. Understanding why individuals are drawn to these groups requires examining psychological, social, and situational factors. So a couple of them involve, like, with the psychological, seeking meaning and purpose, desire for belonging, low self-esteem and identity issues, or even emotional vulnerability. Those are like 4 of the cornerstones of the psychological factors. Mm-hmm. With seeking meaning and purpose, many people join cults during times of personal crisis or existential searching. Cults offer a clear, often simplified worldview that provides a sense of purpose and direction in life, which gives them a desire to belong. So, I mean, humans have an innate need for social connection and belonging. Cults often present themselves as a tight-knit community where members feel valued or accepted and understood, which plays into their low self-esteem and identity issues that they might have. So some individuals with low self-esteem or those struggling with their identity may be more susceptible to cult recruitment. I mean, cults can provide a sense of identity, of self-worth, often through association with the charismatic leader.
So, and this is just your, I guess, Jen's weird fact, is that over in South Korea and Japan, cults are like a big thing. Like, you don't want to go and join a cult, but so many people join cults over there because they need to feel a part of something, and just, I'm not 100% sure, but just the societal norms and things put so much pressure on them that they will go out with flyers seeking English speakers. So if you go over there and you're a foreigner and you speak English, they're going to
join their cult.
They're going to try and lure you in with, oh, well, we're just having a nice little get-together to welcome our foreign friends in, blah, 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 blah. And I don't even remember. It was some small video about living abroad in South Korea. This girl went to her friends from her university, and she was like, girl, no, that's a cult. Don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't fall for it.
Yeah. So they're everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just like the really big bad ones that you hear about on the news.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times cults will just pop up and then they'll disappear real quick because people either wisen up to, you know, the truth.
Yeah.
Or they're like, oh man, I can't keep giving you thousands of dollars because I'm broke now. Oh, well, I guess you're at the bottom level now of our cult.
So that can lead to people, you know, with emotional vulnerability. People who are emotionally vulnerable due to recent trauma, loss, or major life change may also seek solace and support in the structure of
some type of religious belief system.
Yeah.
Make sense of what's going on in their life because they're like, everything's just so topsy-turvy. And this person comes along and is like, oh my God, they're great, they're amazing. They're making sense of all of my troubles and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just destined for greatness and bullshit. Sorry.
I mean, that's part of their social factors.
Yeah.
So 3 social factors are with the charismatic leadership, the peer pressure, and the social influence, along with group dynamics could be another reason, why they would want to join. Because cult leaders are often highly charismatic individuals who can inspire devotion and loyalty. Their authority and confidence can be particularly appealing to those seeking guidance and direction in their life, which can also come from the social influences and the peer pressures. Because, recruitment often happens through friends and family members or trusted acquaintances.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you're more than likely to join a cult if, your best friend that was your cousin's like, hey, I have these people who would absolutely love to meet you. You're more likely to fall for it for somebody that you know versus a stranger coming up to you and trying to recruit you,
I think a lot of people fall into cults because they are dating someone that falls into a cult.
Oh, yeah, that too.
I feel like that's a big factor there.
Influences from loved ones can definitely be powerful and making it easier for individuals to join and remain in a cult. Because, if you join a cult with your husband or your wife or significant other, you are more likely to stay there, because if you try to run away or you try to leave, you're leaving your significant other. That's betrayal. You can't leave without them,
I remember seeing a bunch of, well, not a bunch, I don't guess, but I remember seeing something on another cult that, and it was people who had left the cult.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, it's really difficult to make that decision for yourself because you're leaving your family. I was leaving my sisters there, and they were getting married off to old men.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. That just stinks. But with that comes the loyalty. You're loyal to your loved ones, and therefore you're loyal to the other members. Cults they use group dynamics to reinforce loyalty and conformity. And the sense of community, shared rituals, and a collective identity can be a very powerful motivator for individuals to join and stay in the cult.
Oh, it's that sheep mentality.
Yes.
Herd mentality.
Herd mentality.
Herd mentality.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, number 3 was also with situational factors. So there's economic and social instability.
Mm-hmm.
You give all your money and all your belongings to that stinking cult, you don't have anything. You don't have any money to run away or to find a hotel or to find a place to live. Can't support yourself because, what if you've given all your documents and all your information to the cult leader?
Oh, yeah, that's a huge factor, because when they come to the compound or whatever, they have to turn over all of their, outside influences. You are no longer Joe Smith. You are now Xandor Ferdinand. And this is who you truly are. I don't know.
Xandor is a cool name, but I understand. During times of economic or social upheaval, individuals may turn to cults as a source of stability and security. You've also got to think, if you are a homeless person or you have nowhere else to go, you could have that social and the economic stability that you need. You have the home, you have the food, you have the people around you. Now you have a place to live. The promises of the financial security and the social support, or heck, even spiritual salvation, can be very appealing to some people.
Mm-hmm.
But people go through major life transitions. Okay, now, such as moving to a new city, ending a relationship, or possibly losing a job. Those are often more open to new influences and ideologies. So cults target those vulnerable periods to recruit new members.
Oh, so that's why they were targeting English speakers in those other countries.
Yeah.
Because they're all alone there, and they need a sense of community. And
exactly.
Join our cult.
Yeah. There's even societal factors included as well, like cultural and societal factors. In some societies, certain cults may align with cultural or societal values. Like some countries may be all about enlightenment and spirituality. Well, if you're into spirituality and enlightenment, come join my people. Come visit my compound. We have lots to offer. That way, it makes it seem more appealing and more acceptable for them to join. I mean, additionally, a general decline in traditional religious or social structures can even create a vacuum that cults are very quick to fill. Now, they even use their manipulative tactics. This is where manipulation can come in.
Yeah.
Love bombing,
which
I've heard a lot about love bombing whenever it came to cults.
Okay, so as someone who was subject to love bombing in my marriage, it's highly effective on people who are not receiving any positive attention. And for those of you who don't know what love bombing is, it's where all of a sudden you're getting gifts, you're getting these words of affirmation, you're getting all of your needs met emotionally pretty much. And that's what love bombing is. If you've been dating a person for like a week and they're like, oh my God, I love you, and they say it all the time, chances are they don't love you.
They're just being love bombed. Yes. I mean, love bombing is, for the new recruits, they are showered with affection, praise, and attention. And
you made the right choice.
Yes. With that overwhelming positivity, it can create a very strong emotional bond with the group.
Mm-hmm.
But with the love bombing can also come isolation.
Because they're getting love and attention from these new people. They don't need their outside influences anymore.
Exactly. Cults frequently isolate members from outside influences, including family and friends, which makes the individuals more dependent on the group for support and validation. So with that comes, nobody loves you like we do. You don't have anybody but us. So it's like a slowly growth like a gradual indoctrination process, which the cults will typically introduce their beliefs and practices gradually, making it easier for new members to accept increasingly extreme ideas and behaviors over time.
So I'm seeing a lot of similarities of cult indoctrination with abuse victims.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I've gone into detail yet on the show, and I'm sure we will cover abuse at one point or another.
Yeah.
But my marriage that I was in, that I got out of, thankfully, back in 2019, was very abusive. While he never physically laid a hand on me, it's like it starts slow. My ex-husband is a narcissist, and he's like a horrible, horrible narcissist. And so there's a lot of love bombing, a lot of gift giving up front. And it's this whole they give you so much and then they take away. They give you so much and then take away. And eventually when you're trapped, like you move in with them, or I guess in this case with a cult, you've moved in with the compound or something, that's when everything really starts to happen, where they start beating you down and making you believe what they believe and all this other crap. So I'm seeing a lot of similarities between abuse and cults. And it's startling, because I was never a person who thought I would be a victim of abuse. And after I got out of the situation and I got help,
holy shit.
Oh my God. That was awful.
Yeah. I mean, a part with this too, with the manipulative tactics, the exploitation of fear and guilt. Cults manipulate fear and guilt to control members. They may threaten spiritual, emotional, or physical harm if members even consider leaving or questioning the group's doctrines.
Yet more comparisons to emotional and psychological abuse. Okay, continue.
The last one, a big factor is cognitive dissonance and commitment. Cognitive dissonance, once the individuals invest time, money, and emotional energy into a cult, cognitive dissonance makes it difficult to leave. They justify their continued involvement to avoid the discomfort of admitting that they were wrong. So it's
Again, like with my marriage. Jesus! I'm sorry. There's just so many comparisons. Just like, damn, man. If I had just done a little more studying up on cults, maybe I wouldn't have been there that long. Shit. I'm sorry.
I mean, there was even an escalation of commitment with the dissonance and the commitment. I mean, cults are often using techniques that gradually increase the level of commitment required from members. This escalation makes it increasingly difficult for individuals to extricate themselves from the group.
Yeah.
So, I mean, basically, the reason people join cults are multifaceted, involving a mix of personal vulnerabilities, social influences, and situational pressures. Cults are adept to exploiting these factors to recruit and retain members, creating environments that meet deep-seated psychological and social needs while simultaneously exercising control and manipulation. So that was a back history about exactly what is a cult and what makes it tick. So we are going to start with one of the most charismatic cult leaders of all time. So this cult leader that we are discussing today is known as one of the most charismatic cult leaders known to date. So his name, what everyone knows him by, is David Koresh. But he was not born David Koresh. That is the name that he had given himself later on in life. He was born Vernon Wayne Howell, and he was born August 17th, 1959 in Houston, Texas.
Well, I mean, if I had a lame name like Vernon, I'd probably want a different name too.
Sorry, Vernon. Now, he was the product of teenage pregnancy.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah. His mother, Bonnie Sue Clark, was just 15 years old at the time of his birth, and his father, Wayne Howell, was just 19 years of age. But Vernon never really got to know his father, Wayne, because Wayne found another lady and ran away from Bonnie before Vernon was even born.
So he was a piece of garbage.
Yeah, garbage begets garbage, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, he ran away and leaving 15-year-old Bonnie to figure things out on her own.
15 years old.
I mean, she was still a child herself. Babies raising babies. And that is a very difficult early childhood, if I do say so myself. But sadly, things did not get better. 4 years later, Bonnie abandoned him, as well as left him in the care of her mother. I mean, even before he began attending school, he was abandoned not once, but twice. So that's not off to a great start. But good news, Bonnie came back when he was about 7 years old. Bad news, she came back with an abusive, alcoholic husband named Roy. When he was in school, he was diagnosed with dyslexia. Vernon was separated from his peers and given special schooling. He was isolated from the other kids that he would have meaningful relationships with, but instead he was bullied relentlessly. They had the world's worst nickname for him. They called him Mr. Retardo.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, come on. The R word should never have been thrown in on top of the trauma that he was already experiencing in his childhood. He must have just felt so lonely and rejected. I mean, I would. I mean, God, that is just awful. He was eventually returned to his mother, and they moved to Dallas. When he moved into her home, he started attending church with Bonnie, the Seventh-day Adventist. Now, this was an offshoot from the Millerites. I never knew who the Millerites were. They were formed by William Miller in the 1800s. He had over 100,000 people that attended his church, which is crazy to me. They were one of those doomsday religions, and for some reason, Miller thought that he could predict when the world would end. It was basically like a beautiful mind. I mean, he had come up with not just one, but like several days that he had predicted would be the end of life as we know it. But since we're alive today, his predictions obviously didn't come to fruition. So, fool me once, shame on me. No, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me several times, I need to reevaluate my life and get out of this bullshit religion.
Maybe, yeah.
So, seeing that Miller really was full of shit, several of the followers branched off and formed the Seventh-day Adventists. One of their main pillars relied heavily on the prophecies in the book of Revelation. Vernon was obsessed with the book of Revelation and would memorize long stretches of the Bible that he could recite at the drop of a hat. He would even preach to the other kids at school.
Oh, bet that won him brownie points.
Yeah, no, pretty sure that didn't help the bullying situation. Ugh, probably made it a lot worse.
Yep.
So let's fast forward a little bit. Later on in life, Vernon dropped out of school when he was just in the 9th grade. He kept himself busy after that by taking like odd jobs here and there and playing music. He actually was a pretty good guitar player, like an accomplished musician. And he got some of the attention that he was looking for his entire life. Whenever he would play like small venues and play with other people that were musicians as well. When he was 18, he met a woman named Linda and had lost his virginity to her. And they ended up basically banging a lot. But a little while later, he felt super duper guilty about what was happening between him and Linda because of his religious beliefs, and he broke it off with her. But a little while later, she tracked him down and told him that she had become pregnant.
Oh.
He claimed that it was not his. But he didn't have to put up with that charade for very long because she told him that she already had it taken care of, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yep, okay.
Yeah. They remained friends for just a little while longer, but then it turned romantic again and they were back together. He eventually moved in with her and her father. I guess religious guilt didn't last that long because they started hooking up again and never used protection due to his beliefs. Here's the weird thing. He claimed that he was sterile the whole time, which, I mean, there was never any proof of it because he never had any medical documentation or anything about it. He just heard somebody say it once, like in a movie or something.
And he assumed he was.
Yeah. He was like, no, I'm sterile. But see, the thing is, he felt really bad about having sex with Linda earlier.
Yeah.
But then changed his mind and flipped it to sex before marriage is okay. We just can't use protection because my religion says protection isn't good. So that was one first example showing that he could take what the Bible said and flip it to what he wanted it to say, basically.
Oh, like a lot of people.
So since they never used protection, surprise, surprise, she became pregnant again. So her father was pissed and kicked him out. Linda's dad did everything in his power to not let him be involved in the baby's life. He was homeless, had nowhere to go, and so what would he do other than dive into his religion even deeper? He kept looking for signs. He felt that all the horrible things that happened to him were his quote-unquote trials to become even stronger in his religion. He had spoken to his mother about what was happening to him, and she mentioned that he was looking for something that he couldn't find here. She heard mention of the Davidians in Waco, Texas, on Mount Carmel. That is where the Branch Davidians lived. They were a splinter from the Seventh-day Adventists, where they were called the Davidian Seventh-day Adventists. But later on, it splintered yet again, calling themselves the Branch Davidians. So it was like a cult within a cult within a cult. I call it cultception. So they were led by George and Lois Roden, and they thought the apocalypse was happening right here, right now, because of all the garbage that was happening in the world, I guess. But whenever Vernon joined, George had already passed away, and Lois was the leader at the time.
Mm.
He became very close with Lois and eventually became her right-hand man. Many people thought they were having a sexual relationship. Lois and Vernon both believed that he would impregnate her with the chosen one. So, I mean, there's a little bit of credence to the rumor, obviously. But see, the thing is, she was in her 60s, and he was in his 20s.
Oh.
So, it was highly unlikely that it was going to happen. He managed to turn many of the followers away from Lois's teachings and got several of them on his side. Slowly but surely, Vernon abandoned his relationship with Lois and found his out and discovered some way to basically ghost her out of the group. It was basically like a hostile takeover, in my opinion. He had accumulated a new type of power that he had never known. He had gained so many followers that it was pretty much an easy transition from Lois being the leader to Vernon being the leader. He had been seeing visions, quote-unquote visions, or, more like hallucinations ever since he was a young child. Many neurologists feel that he had some type of epilepsy, possibly, which led him to believe that his visions were messages from God. One of his visions was that of him opening the 7 seals that were associated with the book of Revelation. He thinks that he is the lamb that opens them. Apparently, the 7 seals are very important for religions that believe in doomsday. There are a series of catastrophic events that need to happen in order for the seals to break and for the second coming to happen. The first 4 seals represent the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse: war, famine, plague, and death.
Girl, I watch Supernatural. I know this shit.
But the 5th seal is for the martyrs, the people that have given their lives for their religion. The 6th is supposed to be a massive earthquake that happens and the moon turns blood red and the skies fall apart. And the last one brings the angels to blow their trumpets that bring a reign of chaos. One of his first calls as the new leader was to share a prophecy that he had earlier. His first prophecy that he told the group was that he had been given the task to take on a wife.
Oh,
but not just any wife. A 14-year-old girl.
That's disgusting.
Yep. In the 1980s, the age of consent was higher than that, obviously. And so she had to have parental permission to do so.
I'm going to guess her parents were in the cult.
Yep. Yeah, so seeing as her parents were followers of Vernon, they happily agreed to let it happen.
Our daughter's gonna be his wife. Oh my God, this is such an honor.
Chosen. But see, what's really fucked up is Vernon was 24 at the time, and Rachel, the 14-year-old girl, was just 14. 14. In 1986, he took on 2 more wives.
Oh, because the one 14-year-old just wasn't enough.
No, he had to get another 14-year-old. And a 12-year-old. He was 27. 27 at that time.
Oh my God, with child brides?
Yeah. Vernon looked for more followers while he was taking on these kids as wives. and traveled all over the United States and even Canada. And I'm pretty sure he went to like Australia too at one point. But he was so charismatic that he had no problems with people moving down to Texas. No problem trying to convince them. In the year following, he had married 3 more girls. Robin, who was 17, Nicole, who was 16, and Dana, who was 20.
Okay, not...
Yeah.
Not...
Just wait.
Oh, no.
You should see Jennifer's face right now. She's like, oh, no.
Oh, the
Even though he had some wives that were, somewhat of age, he was rumored to be interested in girls as young as 11.
That nasty son of a bitch.
Yeah. Well, about 1988, when Vernon gained total control of the Branch Davidians, he changed his name to David Koresh, which was a power move, in my opinion. David, obviously, for the King David that the group was founded on, and Koresh, which was Hebrew for the name Cyrus, who was a Persian king who was also considered one of the anointed ones. So, I mean, if you can't tell by now, he is obviously very narcissistic, and a move like this only cemented his status as the leader of the Branch Davidians. Double kings!
Fucking stupid.
Yeah. Well, whenever he pronounced his name as David Koresh, along came a new ordinance that was set forth. It was his new light message. This is where it starts getting really fucked up. He decided that all marriages that his followers were in were now annulled.
What?
And he was now entitled to 140 wives of his own. He was allowed to pick and choose who he wanted so that his seed could carry on.
But I thought he was supposed to be sterile.
Right? Thank you. He told Linda that he was sterile, but if he thinks his seed can carry on, I mean, I guess he's not sterile? Pfft, stupid. But I mean, nobody was allowed to have sex in that whole cult but him. Nobody was allowed to have sex except for him. So you gotta think, there's probably a lot of sexual frustration going on up in there. He had to have as many children as possible so that they would reign supreme when they finally went to paradise. So, the men and women were separated from one another. They were only allowed to be in the same room together during Bible studies. That was one of his huge manipulation tactics that many cult leaders used to keep their followers from mutiny. Because, I mean, if your wife, well, no longer wife, your ex-wife, talks to you, that means, oh, we need to talk about what's going on because we think it's hinky-dinky. No. No judgment, none of that stuff. Because if you're separated from your loved ones, you can't come up with some kind of coup, if you know what I mean. So, for him, whoever God told him to sleep with was who he claimed. And he was told that he needed to have at least 24 children, which would then be turned into the 24 elders that were in the book of Revelation that would rule the last days on earth. It was an honor to be a woman or girl to have sex with Koresh. Girls as young as 11 were given to him. He had to do what God told him to do, and if he was told to take advantage of underage girls, then he was going to do it. He took the Bible and manipulated it to suit him and his needs. He would do whatever he wanted, but damn his followers if they strayed away from his law. He later became obsessed with the New World Order. So, a little bit later in 1991, the U.S. entered the Gulf War. He came to believe that we would become the new Babylon, or the battlegrounds for good versus evil, and it would take place right here in the good old US of A. That is when his cult took a hard left. So, this is where they stockpiled everything from food to gas to propane to guns to grenades and ammo. I mean, just pretty much anything that you need to carry on a war, they stockpiled it. They thought that the government was trying to run their lives and had a serious issue with Uncle Sam. He said his followers needed to be protected and therefore needed to arm themselves to the teeth to protect what was theirs. Several other followers were put in charge of training other members on how to shoot and to prepare for the coming Holy War.
Would I have seen, like, potentially clips from SWAT trying to come into this place and them shooting it, or was that another cult?
Oh, no, you saw that building up in flames and everything. Yeah, I remember.
Okay.
Yeah, you've probably seen it.
Okay, now it's all starting to, like, click in my brain hole. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, he had soldiers, basically. But the head guys, like the main leaders and lieutenants, were called mighty men. Even kids were expected to learn how to fight and to shoot guns and stuff. They would even modify weapons and sell them at gun shows at a hefty price to raise funds for the cult. But one fateful day, so this is where the shit hits the fan.
Can you just imagine being a person who's like, wow, this is a really nice AK at a gun show, and you bought it, and then a few weeks later or some shit, you see on, you're like, oh my God, those are the guys I bought the gun from.
Oh my God.
I'm throwing that out there. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, I would lose my ever-loving mind. Like, hey, that dude sold me a gun last week.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but one fateful day, a UPS package was found to be damaged by a postal worker, and inside he saw grenade casings and stuff like that that was going to be delivered to Mount Carmel. Well, he knew that was hinky, so he reported it to the authorities.
I thought, like, sending ammunition and explosives via the USPS is illegal and considered a felony.
Well, it was grenade casings. Like, there was nothing in it.
Oh.
It was like the outside of it.
Oh, so they were, like, homebrewing their own.
Yes.
Holy hand
They
grenades.
were, like,
okay.
making their own weapons and yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Holy hand grenades. Gotcha.
I mean, so the UPS worker reported it to the authorities. And you've also got to remember that he had been reported as being
unstable as fuck.
Well, yeah. So you've got to remember that he had been reported as being a creepo that was assaulting underage girls all willy-nilly, and you know that his followers would never turn him into the government, so the government could not get any substantial evidence to do anything about it. So whenever they had an eyewitness, that was a United States Postal Service worker, report on that these type of items were being delivered to their compound, that was a good way for them to find their in, for them to get some kind of warrant in order to search it and find out what the heck is exactly going on in there. So in 1993, the ATF had some agents move in next door to stake out the cult. The cult members pretty much knew right away that they were feds, but they still tried to turn the feds over onto their side. So they finally gained enough information about the compound that the ATF made their move, and they were finally granted a warrant just to search the premises. They weren't
going in with the intention to, like, I'm gonna blast them. It's hey,
can we just take a gander? But no, that's not how it happened.
Yeah, because shit hit the fan real hard.
Yeah. On February 28th, 1993, a pivotal and tragic event unfolded at the Branch Davidian compound in Waco, Texas, marking the beginning of what would become a 51-day standoff.
Oh, yeah. I remember now hearing all about this. Okay.
A 51-day standoff between the federal authorities and the religious group led by David Koresh. So here's a detailed account of the raid and its aftermath. So, background. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms had been investigating the Branch Davidians for several months, suspecting them of stockpiling illegal firearms and explosives.
Which they were.
That ended up being true. So the investigation culminated in a planned raid aimed at arresting David Koresh and searching the compound for suspected weapons. So early morning, the ATF agents prepared for the raid, assembling a force of about 76 agents.
Yeah.
So the operation was intended to be a surprise, but the plan was compromised. Media personnel had been tipped off about the raid, and on their way they were lost. So they stopped and asked a postal worker on the way where Mount Carmel was. Well, turns out that particular postal worker was a Branch Davidian and informed Koresh of what was about to happen. So this made the ATF's element of surprise just get tossed out the window.
Moot point.
Yeah. The ATF agents arrived at the compound around 9:30 or 9:45 a.m. They approached in cattle trailers and had helicopters flying all around with the goal of executing their search and arrest warrants. They really wanted to rush in, giving the Branch Davidians no chance to prepare, but little did they know
They'd been tipped off.
They had been tipped off and they were ready. They were ready for whatever.
God.
Well, a shootout began almost immediately as agents attempted to enter the compound. The precise details of who fired first really remain disputed. The ATF claims that the Davidians fired first, and while survivors from the compound argue that the ATF agents initialed the gunfire. But that intense gun battle lasted for nearly 2 hours, resulting in casualties on both sides. 4 ATF agents were killed, and 16 others were wounded during the initial raid. 5 Branch Davidians were killed, and several others were wounded. Now, the standoff begins. Following the failed raid, a tense standoff ensued between the Branch Davidians and federal authorities, lasting 51 days. During this period, the FBI took over the operation, negotiating with Koresh and attempting to secure the release of individuals inside the compound. While some people, including children, were allowed to leave, many remained inside, loyal to Koresh. While inside, Koresh would blast music in his preachings over the intercom system to try and break the agents down outside. And I'm pretty sure at one point he was playing weird farm animal noises and stuff just to fuck with them.
Okay.
Now, David Koresh ended up getting wounded during the initial raid, but he used that as a tactic. Look, I am the chosen one. I was shot and I was hurt, but I wasn't killed. That's just more proof that I am your leader. I'm here for a reason. But despite his injuries, he continued to communicate with negotiators, often discussing religious themes and preaching to them hours on end on the freaking telephone, his interpretations of the biblical prophecies. Just yammer on and on and on and on and on and on, while the negotiators were pretty much on the phone. Oh, yeah. Interesting.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Right? Once he got going, he was known to preach for 19 hours at a time. Hours. Yes.
He would have been real good at filibustering.
Oh my God. I wouldn't have been able to do it. But as the standoff dragged on, the FBI employed various psychological tactics to pressure the Branch Davidians to surrender, including cutting off the electricity and playing loud noises outside the compound. So they fought fire with fire by playing loud noises and stuff, trying to not let the people inside sleep. That way they'll stay awake and they'll be super duper tired and exhausted, which... It was just a shit show. Let's just say it was just a shit show. April 19th, 1993.
Yeah.
After weeks of unsuccessful negotiations and growing frustration, the FBI decided to end the standoff by force. Tanks and armored vehicles began to insert tear gas into the compound in an attempt to force the occupants out.
Holy moly.
I mean, you think after 51 days, they'd be tired of their shit. So, toss in that freaking tear gas, man. The FBI claimed that this was done to avoid violent confrontation. So, if they could force the people out, they can stop shooting and everything like that. But around...
I bet they had gas masks, yo.
They probably did. If they were preparing for doomsday and the end of the world, they probably had it, honestly.
Yeah.
But around noon, a fire broke out within the compound. The cause of the fire remains a subject of controversy. Some believe that the Branch Davidians started the fire as a form of mass suicide, while others suggest it could have been accidentally or deliberately started by the assault. They don't know. But the fire spread rapidly, engulfing the entire compound. The fire and the final assault resulted in the deaths of 76 Branch Davidians, including David Koresh.
Oh.
Men, women, and children.
That's awful.
Yes. Oh my God. It was horrible. But the Waco siege remains one of the most controversial and debated incidents in American law enforcement history. Investigations and congressional hearings were conducted to examine the actions of both the ATF and the FBI. Critics argue that the federal agencies mishandled the situation, leading to unnecessary loss of life, while others believe that Branch Davidians were responsible for their own tragic end. But, I hate that. The Waco siege has had a lasting impact on American society, influencing views on government, overreach, and the handling of similar standoffs. The event has been cited as a motivation for anti-government sentiment and was notably referenced by Timothy McVeigh as a factor in the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995. The Waco siege remains a poignant reminder of the complex and often tragic consequences of clashes between government authorities and isolated, ideological-driven groups. But that's just freaking nuts. I mean, I don't think I could believe in the end of the world because, I mean, honestly, I don't think anyone could predict when the world will end. Because, I mean, ugh.
People have tried constantly, and I know there was that big Mayan calendar situation.
Yes.
But, like, bruh, it's just a big stone. Just because you only found one does not mean that there weren't others. But, I mean, it's stone. You're gonna run out of room eventually.
Yeah. Because, I mean, there was the Mayan calendar. There was the predictions of Nostradamus. There was, there are lots of other doomsday cults too, like the Jonestown cult. Heaven's Gate believed in the end of the world.
Yep.
And I just don't get what is the deal with people expecting the world to end. I mean, ignorance is bliss. If one day it just gets wiped out, it could happen while I'm on my way home tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, you just never know.
I think people who are obsessed with like the end times and things of that nature are trying to make sense of
everything that's going on in the world, but at the same time wanting to have some control over it. They are afraid of it. They don't want to die. And so they are trying to take control where they can. And it leads them down that path to ultimately self-destruction.
Yeah. I feel you there. But I guess that's all I've got for the Branch Davidians and David Koresh. So if you gravediggers liked what you heard, make sure you let us know. Email us, direct message us on Instagram, give us a follow, rate, review, tell your friends, your loved ones, please. We would absolutely love to hear from you. Email us, even if it's just to say hi. talesfromthegraves@gmail.com.
You wanna know a weird fact about myself?
Okay, sure, why not?
Yeah. So you remember when I dated that one guy who was really tall?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to say his name because I don't want to put him on blast. He
was a prepper.
I'm not necessarily a prepper, but he's a very firm believer in the separation of government and what you want to do, and so he is of the firm belief that the ATF started everything at Waco and they're to blame for everything. And I mean, like, he's not a bad guy. He's a great guy. Wish him all the best. But I'm like, that's a little bonkers. But okay, you do you, as long as you don't force that belief onto me, because I don't really want to know. But when you started mentioning stuff about the prepping and everything, I'm like, holy shit, oh no.
That's what's his nuts.
Yeah, that's stuff that he was all about, and he's still very passionate about it.
Yeah.
And I think he was looking at it from more of they should have been able to prep and keep the things that they wanted to do, and I don't think he looked into the actual cult aspect of everything that was happening. I think he was just literally looking at the fact of there are these bunch of people making explosives and having guns and wanting guns and things of that nature, and the government's coming in and telling them that they can't do that.
But they were diddling kids, man. One dude was diddling kids.
I don't think the guy I dated knew about that.
Yeah, well, that's part of doing your research.
Well, he was not the best at that. I'm just going to say,
All right. Well, that is all that we have for you today. So, like David Koresh, we're just going to let this one rest. Bye, gravediggers. Love ya. Bye.
Honestly, I hope he's not resting very well. Just, he diddled kids.
If you like what you heard, please feel free to follow, like, rate, and review Tales from the Graves podcast on your preferred listening platform. We also would like to know what you think and what topic you suggest we unearth next. Email us at talesfromthegravespod@gmail.com or reach out to us at Tales from the Graves podcast on Instagram. And if you have Discord, join us in the graveyard. The link is in our bio on our Instagram as well as this listening platform. Thanks again, Gravediggers.